Welcome and thank you for joining us on another thrilling FTB Lunch and Learn series in which we will guide you on an expedition through life at Wood. We'll be showcasing a new profession every month and providing you with a comprehensive glimpse into their daily routine, from sunrise all the way to sunset, their contributions and the distinctive duties and obligations they bear in their role. This type of content is exactly what you've all asked for, and so we hope to inspire you in taking a role in energy. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Steph, who just recently joined Wood in the last 6 months and graduated not too long ago. And so this is a different type of episode because she's a new grad, and it's really exciting to see just her career evolve already so far. So Steph, thank you for being here today. I can't wait to find out more about you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to get to say my spiel on the other end of just recently starting this career.
Yes. Okay. So before we get into Wood, why you picked Wood, and kind of what you do for a living in the last 6 months and all the stuff that you've learned, tell me a little bit about your educational background.
Right. So I'm actually a first generation college student. Both of my parents came from Mexico in search of a better life. So all my goal was to go to college. I didn't know what major to pick. I didn't know what industry to go into because I really didn't have any exposure to it. So I just decided to go to Texas A&M University, and I didn't know what to start with. So I went with business my freshman year of college. And then later on, I decided to go into engineering, which is what I really wanted to do, but I was just a little too scared my freshman year to go into. But then I just decided to get over that and kind of follow my passion for math and science, and mostly just getting to learn how to fix problems, which was usually my passion. And so I graduated. It took a while, but I graduated with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And I graduated in December. So it was a long trek, but we finally got there, finally got my diploma. And then I just started looking for jobs.
Love that you shared all of those pieces, mainly because, to your point, you said first immigration student. That's amazing. And to your point,
Thank
it's
you.
difficult when you're choosing a degree because your parents don't have that knowledge to like help you point you into the right direction. And so
Mhm.
that's difficult, but like good for you. And Texas A&M, that's not, no nothing. That's huge. And so congratulations on that. And I really love that you touched upon it took me a little bit longer to graduate. And I think so many people listening are going to relate to that because you're young, you don't necessarily know what you want to do for a living for the rest of your life. And so
Right.
I really love that you started in business, but then you realized that you wanted to go into engineering. And I also really like that you shared that you just were a little bit scared, and because it looked challenging and scary, and
Right.
everybody always talks about engineering as just such a difficult degree. And
Yeah.
you still went for it. And it took you a little bit longer to your point, but you'll see as you start your career, none of those things really matter. It's kind of what you do
Right.
next and moving forward. And, for the
Mhm.
last 7 months, you've been slaying at work and doing such a good job. And so I can't wait to
Hopefully.
find out a little bit more about how did you choose Wood? Did you have any experience or any family members that worked in the industry or like either engineering consulting world or oil and gas? And as a younger generation lady, tell me a little bit about like what are some core values that you're looking for when you were interviewing?
Okay, perfect. So, the only thing I knew about the oil and gas industry, I'm from Southeast Texas, so there were just a lot of refineries. And so my direct assumption was, okay, only guys go there because that's all I saw working there, right? But I didn't have or know anyone in the oil and gas industry. My dad he does flooring for a living, and my mom is a housewife. So I kind of had to ask a lot of questions and do a lot of research. So a lot of YouTube videos helped me with getting me like in the door. But mostly was just asking questions. So at our career fair that A&M held, there were a lot of companies that came, and I think as I was walking through talking to all the industries, there was aerospace, there was like structures, and oil and gas. I think I bumped into wood. It was interesting. I was like, oh wow, oil and gas. Okay, that makes sense, right? I loved it, but that kind of let me into questions, and the recruiters that were there just instantly made me feel at home. And I think that's kind of what made me realize that's where I wanted to work. I know it's weird, but I was like, it was kind of like love at first sight, because you're walking around career fair, your heels hurt, you just want to go home. There's so many people, it's sweaty. There's so many like taller people,
Yeah.
and so you just kind of get lost.
And
And
a
so I
bunch of
kind of felt
guys
like there
too,
was,
like taking over the
yeah,
space and yeah.
yeah, with their like big suits, and I'm over here with my heels bleeding. Um, and so whenever I talked to Wood, and they just made me feel it was more personalized instead of a like online here, scan this
Mhm.
code, we'll get in touch with you if we want you. It was more like, I want to get to know you, I want to see your strengths. It was kind of an interview when they started just talking to you. And so I think that's what I really wanted in a company. So after that day of the career fair, I was like, this is the company I want to work for. And I just kind of it really clicked what my values were when I was looking for a job, because I think it's kind of important to know what you want in a job, because you did work 5 or 4 years,
Yeah.
hard work, and you're not just gonna, it's not for granted. You have a choice in picking who you want to work for, right? So you get a good degree, and then you kind of interview the company because you want them to make you feel like you are a person and not like a number. So that was something I was looking for when I was just going around the career fair talking to the recruiters. So I think that's how I kind of landed into this company now. And then your last question was it, ladies looking for, yeah, as as a lady, in a job, I look for work-life balance because I obviously want to have a family later on. And so I think as I was looking through companies, I was like, okay, I want a company that will understand, when I have like a baby or when I have to go take the kids to school. And I think whenever I interviewed with my manager, she was very open to talk about her life as well and her career path. So it was very encouraging, and I think that's what really led me to this place, which was really nice to hear, because it is scary coming from like being a woman and going into a career. It's not like your career is the only thing that's in the way. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I also want, a family, and I want to grow this family, but I also want to, keep my career going. So that was very important in a company. um,
Thank you for sharing. I feel like you're speaking for all the Gen Zs out there because everything that you've mentioned are exactly kind of like what align with the future generation that's coming into the
Mhm.
workplace is make me feel like family. I'm not a number. I want to contribute.
Right.
I want to feel valued. And I want to also do a job where I feel like I'm doing something, and
Mhm.
contributing to the bigger goal. And so I know once we're going to get into kind of like a day in your life as an instrumentation engineer, there's a lot of things that you're doing every day that are going to impact a huge project. And so it's really cool to see that through what you've decided to do, you get to be part of this huge project that later on you might be able to drive by one day and say like, mom did that, so I think
Yeah.
that's so cool. And I really like that you didn't shy away from talking about how work-life balance is a priority for you, and that yeah, you have other expectations outside of work. You want to grow your family and you want to be a mom. And I think maybe back in the day people would shy away from saying that because employers might be like, oh, she wants to be a mom, we don't want.
Right.
And so I really like
Yeah.
that you're bringing that up. And to your point, like even Catherine Zimmerman, who we just interviewed, last month, she has 4 children, I believe, or 3 or 4 children, and
Wonderful.
she has an amazing career at Wood. And it's like when you see those type of role models, you know that this is the right company for me because if they've supported her
Right.
through all of those, life changing moments,
Mhm.
then this is a good spot. So I love that you shared that.
Thank
So tell me a little bit about, you just had interns. I believe they're going to be finishing soon through the summer.
you.
Tell me what that
Yes.
experience was. You were not an intern yourself, but tell me a little bit of like, what do they do in an internship? Did they get to shadow you and other engineers? What does that look like?
Yes, so I had the privilege of working with my intern. I had one that was in my own department, and so I was just super excited when I learned that we were getting them. I was super excited because I got to kind of take the knowledge that I had acquired in my like first 4 months. It
Yeah.
wasn't much, but it was some. And I got to kind of keep it going and share it with her. So she's amazing, and I love our interns. But so their internship kind of experience was very hands-on, first of all, just because they kind of started doing the work that we do as employees. So they really did get a first look into like if they were to get hired, what their life would look like, what their day-to-day life would look like down the road. So that was really neat. So friends that I used to talk to about their internship experience, they would say that they would always be bored, they had nothing to do. And I think that's very different than the wood internship experience because we have a wonderful person, Tammy Costers, and she's in charge of kind of the interns. And they were able to actually have conversations with people in upper management, with their managers about different just topics. They learned about the company. They learned about, they had a talk with Katie Zimmerman. So they got introduced to basically a lot of key people in the industry in wood. And they even got to go to like a vendor visit with Emerson. So they had like amazing opportunities that I would have loved to have as an intern. I didn't have an internship, but if I would have wanted an internship, I definitely would have wanted this one. So they had a really wonderful experience.
That's so great. And you know what's funny? It's like I go back to when I was in school and I did a few internships. I had a really good internship, which actually is the company that I decided to go to work for. So internship is super important because you do get a glimpse into what your life is going to look like. But I did have
Yeah.
like a crappy experience as well, like the year before, to your point,
Mhm.
where it was just boring and you weren't really hands on, you weren't learning, you were
Mhm.
not part of anything. It was just like here's an intern and there is no like involvement. And so to your
Mhm.
point, it's super important that you are treating the interns super right and good and giving them a real glimpse into like what their daily tasks are going to look like. So it seems that they're having a great summer, and so that's
I
awesome.
hope so.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, what is an instrumentation engineer? And most people probably have maybe never heard of it, or if they have, they think you work with instruments all day. Like, I don't know. And so tell us a little bit first what the role is and what does an instrumentation engineer do? And then we'll get into kind of like a daily routine on a day that you're going to the office.
Perfect. Okay. So I also did not know what an instrumentation engineer was until I got the job. Um, so I had to learn as I went, but it basically encompasses a whole lot. And since Wood is an engineering firm, I have the role of a package engineer. So as a package engineer in instrumentation, what my role is we are in charge of certain packages that are different instruments. So let's say one of the instruments is a pressure gauge or a temperature gauge. With that package, we are responsible of going through the PNIDs, which are just piping and instrument diagrams. So you just look through those, and then you have to make data sheets for each temperature gauge and each pressure gauge, and you have to kind of calibrate what range they're going to be used in. So basically, we're in charge of all the instruments that are put in a facility that is being built or designed. And then we have to kind of size them. We then, talk to the vendors. So there's that like nice interaction of telling them what we need and they tell us what they have. So it's it goes through phases or specific like job. But mostly we're just responsible for sizing like control valves, for finding the diameter of an orifice plate. It ranges, and I like that about this specific field because you're never bored, because you're always having to learn within every project what type of instrument. So it keeps you on your toes, which I really like, because I get to learn something new each and every like week or each and every month, and it just keeps you, yeah, I guess on your toes.
Really good description. It like from thinking of instrumentation engineer, you really like explained it well. Where like I understand what it fits into the bigger picture of like a project. In terms of projects, when you're doing instrumentation engineering, do you get to work on multiple projects, like 10 or 5, or are you kind of for the next year, you are set to one project and you're gonna do instrumentation just for that project?
So that depends on if you want to take multiple small projects or if you want to be on a big project. Some people prefer the small projects because they like jumping from, project to project. But if you're more of a steady, you can't really take that many packages. Or if you're new like me, a big project is more likely what you would want to be in. But they do range. You have like 1 to 5 years, or sometimes it's like months. It's small brownfield project or like a big greenfield project. So it all depends.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell me a little bit about like what a day in the life of Steph looks like when you're going to the office. And so like what time do you usually, what time do you wake up? What does your morning routine look like? Do you get to go to the gym or walk or like whatever you do and
Yeah,
then go to work? And then, tell me a little bit about that from until you get home.
perfect. Okay, awesome. So I wake up around like 5:30 a.m. because I have to get ready. I It's a girl thing.
Yeah.
Then I get to work at 7. So I start my day at 7 a.m. I usually just start with like looking over my planner. Something I like about my specific job right now is it's more self-paced. So you have
Mhm.
deadlines, right? And you just kind of have to pace yourself on how to get them either done early or done in time. So that's very neat because you keep yourself accountable. But I just go over my like daily planner and I'm like, okay, this, I'm going to do this, do that. Then I go and look at my emails. I see which ones I've like responded to and just checking my emails. And then a lot of the work is done on the computer. So Mondays and Fridays I work remote, which is nice because I just wake up at 6:59, roll
Yeah.
over and start working. And then we come to the office Tuesday through Thursday. But during the office, what I really like is the interaction with people. I get to talk face to face, get questions answered quicker,
Mhm.
which is always nice. So that's kind of what I do during, before lunch and after lunch. And then it's mostly, like I said, mostly computer work, mostly spreadsheets or data. You get usually processed data, and you have to figure out and calculate instrument specs with that data. And then I leave at 4. So that's basically the day. I just kind of,
Is there,
look at stuff with it.
to your point, because there's a lot of like computer work and stuff, is there like a lot of in-person meetings when you're in the office? Is it just like multiple meeting teams and your manager and like a lot of that, or is it more like independent work, laptop, and then once in a while you meet with teams?
Right. So every Monday we have like a teams meeting with our department it within the project. So it's a small group, like maybe 10. And our team lead goes through all of us and sees where we are, what we're doing, and what we're going to do. So just a little accountability. And
Hmm.
then after that, it's mostly just you hold yourself accountable. And then my lead hold he checks up on me because I am new, so I don't
Yeah.
really know much. But
Yeah.
he checks up on me every day. He's like, "Do you need help?" So that's very nice to have. And then my coworkers are amazing, so I can go to them if I need any help. Because in this job, you really like you learn every day. You can't know everything about
Yeah.
any instrument. So it's always nice to fall on them and ask them. But I don't have a lot of meetings because I'm still new,
Yeah.
and so it's a lot more independent work, which is really nice.
I like that. I feel like, when you first start any role fresh out of school, it's a learning process. You're kind of thrown into like a role with other more senior people who've been doing it for a while. And you just kind of, to your point, you take it as you go, you take ownership of it, and you ask questions. And you kind of, every day you're just growing until eventually you look around and you're like, I'm the senior one and I know what I'm doing. So I love that.
It's me.
Yeah, then you're gonna have to help other people. But it sounds like just the fact that you said like I love my coworkers and I feel comfortable enough to go ask for help. That's crucial because if you're new in a role and you don't feel like you have that support, it's really hard to grow and develop when you're afraid to ask
Right.
for help or like questions. So it seems you're doing really awesome. So I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
To end, I wanted to ask you, if you would go back and give yourself one piece of advice, as you were graduating, before coming into the corporate world, into oil and gas, what would that advice be?
I would say, I think, I gotta think. I would say don't underestimate yourself, because you can do a lot more than you really think you can. A lot of people think they're very underqualified because they don't have the experience. Maybe they didn't get an internship at all, even though they applied. Maybe they don't know much technically about a specific subject. So they just kind of, they just quit. They're like, no, I don't know much about this, so I'm just not going to do it. So I wish I would have, not underestimated myself and been like, hey, you can do it. You just have to kind of put yourself out there and not be scared, would be my advice.
It's excellent advice. I'm so glad that that's what you picked. Because you're right. So many, especially women, let's just be real, we underestimate ourselves. We have that imposter syndrome. To your point, maybe we didn't have an internship in oil and gas or in this area. Engineering as a whole is already so challenging and male dominated, and there is a lot of smarter people out there, let's just face it,
Yes,
And so you
yes.
feel like, am I capable? Can I truly be an engineer for a big firm like Wood? Can I work in oil and gas, etc.? And so I love that you mentioned that because it's all about mindset and just having a good attitude of like wanting to learn and growing. And so I really like that you mentioned that, and I think a lot of people, will bring value with that.
I hope so.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If you want to reach out to Stephanie, we will put her LinkedIn below. And again, thank you for joining us on this Lunch and Learn series powered by Wood. Thank you.
Thank you.